The cameras caught it. On a luxury yacht, the moment Sandra Bullock was publicly humiliated by her lover in front of a crowd. The pain in her eyes clashed with the splendor of the gold-plated salon, and amidst the sudden silence that fell over the onlookers, Keanu Reeves's piercing gaze was ready to change the entire atmosphere. At the very beginning, as you witness the fragility of human dignity and the unexpected hero of justice, you'll encounter surprises that will touch the depths of your heart. This isn't just a visual show. It's a story of emotional transformation and inner resilience waiting for you. Hey, I see you still haven't subscribed, and that makes me sad. Subscribe now, and let's spread Keanu Reeves's heroism to the entire world together. A luxury yacht, where the deep blue of the high seas meets modern lines and elegant details, glided over the waves like a work of art. Daylight streamed in through expansive windows, merging with the golden glints reflected off crystal chandeliers to create a mesmerizing dance of light on the marble floors. In this magnificent setting, the exclusive guest list and international press coverage made the invitation one of the most important events in high society. Right in the midst of this splendor, a solitary figure caught Keanu Reeves' eye, a quiet, profound presence amidst the crowd. Dressed in simple yet impeccably tailored attire, with the marks of experience and inner calm etched on his face, Keanu wandered among the visual feast aboard the yacht, carefully absorbing the atmosphere with every step. The questioning look in his deep eyes hinted at a soul attempting to rediscover the world on its own, despite the surrounding clamor. In that moment, an inner voice in Keanu echoed, "Everything here shines. But what truths lie behind the glitter?" In the yacht's entrance hall, where elegant furnishings and art pieces were showcased with meticulous care, not only was physical luxury on display, but the complexity of the social dynamics at play was also made apparent. Amid this exclusive gathering, Keanu distinguished himself as a silent yet astute observer, able to notice the details hidden from prying eyes. Sandra Bullock, one of the most talked-about guests of the evening, stood out in the salon with her graceful gown and commanding presence. Her aura immediately drew Keanu's attention. However, for him, what truly mattered was a mysterious figure emerging by her side, a presence that added an enigmatic air, not yet fully defined. Next to Sandra, her lover's subtle silhouette in the background sent a harsh message to the crowd through his behavior, but in Keanu's eyes, it only seemed to herald a deeper, more dramatic layer to the unfolding events. The main hall of the event aboard the luxury yacht exuded the aura of a palace beneath the dim light of crystal chandeliers adorned with gold accents. In this spacious and airy area, carefully selected artworks hung on the walls while silky curtains gently swayed, and the intimate conversations and subtle jokes exchanged among the guests filled the space with a gentle warmth. Yet, beneath this magnificent decor, a delicate crack was beginning to show, one born from the invisible pressures of social status and personal pride. Before the eyes of the gathered crowd, as Sandra Bullock gracefully participated in conversations, her elegance and poise on full display, her lover suddenly swept into the scene, his sharp words casting a cold atmosphere over the gathering. Despite Sandra's dazzling dresses, meticulously chosen accessories, and flawless makeup that drew all attention to her, his sarcastic expression and harsh tone created an instantaneous wave of silence. His derisive remark began with, "Along with success, sometimes your choices are also judged," and these words echoed through the room. They threatened to undermine the achievements and the hard-earned respect Sandra had garnered, while the mixed expressions on the onlookers' faces revealed both admiration for her celebrated reputation and a keen awareness of the fragility of human dignity. At that very moment, Keanu Reeves's deep, observant eyes watched the entire scene from a distance. For him, this was not merely a moment of mockery, but a storm that laid bare the finely tender wounds of the human soul. Amid the reverberating words and the sight of Sandra's slightly trembling hands and downcast eyes, tangible signs of inner conflict, Keanu silently murmured to himself, "True value isn't measured solely by achievements, but by one's dignity." In that instant, the restlessness and hurt began to imprint themselves slowly upon the cold walls of the hall. While the guests expressed shock and discomfort at her lover's stern attitude, the sorrow and quiet anger that surfaced in Sandra's eyes seemed to permeate the space like an emotional weight. Some guests exchanged whispered glances, murmuring, "To see someone so deeply wounded." Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves, with his silent composure, had become a symbol of injustice and heartache. The elegant background music in the hall did little to dispel the sudden tension. Every note seemed to whisper a deep curiosity. How will this situation be resolved? In that moment, as the contradictions of social status and personal pride, and the fragility of human relationships were laid bare, the audience was both sensorially and emotionally shaken. Sandra's momentary humiliation sparked Keanu Reeves's inner reflections, and the first sparks of a search for justice and respect began to emerge in the atmosphere. As everyone awaited with bated breath what would happen next, how Keanu might intervene, and how Sandra would respond to this pain, every corner of the hall became a harbinger of quiet resistance and a defense of human dignity. The heavy atmosphere in the hall, following the sarcastic remarks that had silenced pockets of the crowd, gradually transformed into a scene of quiet introspection, illuminated by Keanu Reeves's deep, contemplative gaze. The weight of that moment felt as if time itself had slowed, every second carefully etched into a living tableau. Amid all the dazzling lights, words of praise, and the sting of barbed jabs, Sandra Bullock began to feel increasingly alienated within the crowd. Overwhelmed by conflicting emotions, she resolutely left the hall and made her way toward the open deck of the luxury yacht. The moment she stepped onto the open deck, the cool sea breeze and the gentle salty gusts that caressed her face stirred all her senses, signaling both a physical and spiritual awakening. The nightscape reflected through the expansive windows, where the city lights merged with the sea into a glittering spectacle, began to soothe the turbulent emotions within Sandra. As she walked alone, every step carried echoes of past scars, disappointments, and heartaches. Yet, this solitary moment also offered her a chance to reflect and rebuild herself. In her internal monologue, carried by the crisp yet pure air of the deck, she murmured, "Who am I really? My successes, my awards, the praises, as much as they reflect who I am. The pain I feel inside touches the very core of my being. Perhaps, truly, human dignity is something far deeper than these superficial critiques." Slowly, as she fixed her gaze on the sea, the gentle movement of the waves seemed to remind her simultaneously of life's bitter and sweet sides. Each wave brought with it a mingling of past sorrows and the uncertain hopes of the future, sending a slight shudder through her heart. At that moment, Keanu Reeves noticed the elegant, fragile figure stepping onto the open deck from afar. His inner sense of justice and humanity was further ignited by her presence. Advancing with calm, measured steps, Away from the bustling crowd, he observed Sandra's solitude and inner pain up close. Silently, he thought, this solitude is actually giving her a chance to find strength again. As he contemplated his own resolve and the responsibility that came with this moment, he quietly deliberated what he needed to do next. Although the open deck appeared serene and peaceful from the outside, it had become a stage where tumultuous emotions and unresolved conflicts lay hidden beneath the surface. Sandra's isolation was both an act of escape and a moment of confrontation. It allowed her to rediscover herself while facing the harsh realities of life. And in that moment, it also marked a turning point for Keanu Reeves. This loneliness was not only a reflection of Sandra's own struggles, but also a stark reminder of the deep-seated grievances and the true values of human dignity that needed to be re-examined in this elite environment. Following the open deck scene, Sandra Bullock made her way toward a narrow corridor that seemed to deepen her solitude. As she walked along this intricately adorned passage, a space filled with the uneasy ambiance of dim lights and a gently blowing sea breeze, her footsteps echoed softly. With each step, the lingering sorrows of the past and the uncertainties of the future reverberated in her mind, transforming her inner monologue into a silent storm. Where can I truly find value? She asked herself, as the pain of public humiliation and the shattering of human dignity resurfaced at every turn. This confined space became a catalyst for Sandra's journey of self-discovery, with the dark corners of the corridor acting like a diary, preserving traces of bygone days. Faint scratches and muted colors on the walls stood as silent witnesses to the passage of time and the pain endured. Each step deepened her sense of isolation and vulnerability, prompting onlookers to wonder, what exactly is this woman searching for? At that moment, Keanu Reeves, who was making his way toward the end of the corridor, observed Sandra intently. The contradiction in her solitude, like a beacon in the darkness, stirred within him feelings of justice and compassion. Moving quietly forward, he approached Sandra and caught her gaze, a look that conveyed more than words ever could. The slight concern and determined expression on his face began to break through the corridor's chill, scattering small sparks of hope. Within the narrow confines of that passage, the silence born of loneliness and inner longing seemed to herald the promise of forthcoming support and intervention. The faint glimmer in Sandra's eyes marked the first sign of her effort to reclaim her worth. In this way, that narrow corridor transformed into a symbol not only of a physical transition, but also of an emotional journey, a search for solace and the support she so deeply needed. At the end of the corridor, Sandra stepped toward the yacht's private balcony. The balcony, where the city lights met the sea and a gentle breeze caressed her face, resembled an oasis radiating a beacon of hope. Here, amid solitude and inner reflection, every wave seemed to slightly ease her heartache, and the tranquility of the sea touched her soul. In the soft glow along the edge of the balcony, the deep emotions on Sandra's face, pain intermingled with hope, were evident. As her inner voice trembled with the question, "Can I truly find my worth again?" This quiet space became a harbinger of rebirth for her. At that moment, far from the crowd, Keanu Reeves's presence was felt once more. Just outside the balcony door, he advanced in silent steps, drawing closer to Sandra. In their initial exchange of glances, words were unnecessary. It was as if unspoken emotions, long left unsaid, were being shared. Keanu's profound gaze communicated with Sandra's eyes, exchanging the sorrow and hope in a silent language. In that instant, it wasn't just a wordless interaction between two people. It became a symbol of a soul, battling life's harsh realities in search of hope once again. As this private balcony gently tended to Sandra's inner wounds, Keanu Reeves's presence provided her with support and reassurance. Every wave, every breeze carried an uncertain yet hopeful message for the future. And after this silent encounter, onlookers found themselves eagerly wondering what would happen next. As the event reached its climax, the yacht's main dining area became filled with a heavy atmosphere. Amid the crowd and the ostentatious decor, the price of Sandra Bullock's humiliation was mirrored on every face. Her lover's cruel and sarcastic words had wounded her pride, and every gaze in the room shared in that pain. At that moment, Keanu Reeves emerged from the corridors and began to slowly move around the dining table. With each step, he felt the room's cold, sharp energy, and silently echoed in his inner voice. A person's worth isn't measured solely by their achievements. Dignity lies deep within the soul. Keanu eventually positioned himself at the very center of the crowd. His gaze seemed to reflect a hope lost amid the suffering and injustice. In quiet but powerful words, he declared, "No one here deserves to be humiliated like this," initiating a subtle intervention against the harsh attitudes that had permeated the space. His words not only gently warmed Sandra's heart as she confronted the barbs hurled at her, but also stirred feelings of regret and shame among the guests. Some bowed their heads in deference to the weight of Keanu's message, while others exchanged bewildered glances. For Keanu Reeves, this intervention was not merely a social reaction. It was also an expression of deep sacrifice in the name of preserving the fragility of the human spirit. His stance in front of the crowd was aimed at easing Sandra's pain, marking an internal struggle and a quest for social justice. Every word he spoke was a defiant challenge to the harsh realities of the environment, and every look he cast reminded everyone of the priceless value of human dignity. In that moment, as onlookers were prompted to ask themselves, what is the cost? Keanu's quiet courage and pursuit of justice became a symbol of a profoundly emotional turning point. After Keanu Reeves' intervention, the quiet library corner of the yacht transformed into a sanctuary of renewed peace. The dim lights in the room softened heavy emotional burdens, while the old books hanging on every shelf quietly whispered the wisdom of the past and the traces of time. This space became not only a physical refuge, but also a place that touched the inner worlds of the guests, planting new seeds of hope in their hearts. Following the heated debates in front of the crowd, several guests began to feel remorse and empathy, stirred by the impact of Keanu Reeves's words. Some extended sincere apologies to Sandra with open hands, while others, with an emotional sparkle in their eyes, silently affirmed, "We all have value." This support revived the quest for justice and the renewal of human dignity throughout the room. In the serene ambiance of the library, Sandra Bullock began to regain her composure after the hurt she had endured. The slight smile that appeared on her face reflected her effort to rebuild her inner strength and dignity. The wave of support sparked by Keanu's intervention served as an awakening for all the guests, reminding them that social status and personal values should not be confined by ostentation and ridicule. This library corner became a symbol of the fragility of human relationships and the possibility of renewal. And with Keanu Reeves' quiet but impactful intervention, a deep transformation swept through the space. As the guests felt both the weight of the past and the hopeful promise of the future, they internalized the message, "Respect is every human's right." And the atmosphere was once again filled with a spirit of solidarity and inner peace. On the yacht's top deck, where the night sky shimmered with stars and the calm, deep blue sea met with golden light, everything was finally falling back into place. This open space, representing the pinnacle of the event, set the stage for a silent, meaningful tête-à-tête between Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves. As a gentle breeze brushed their faces, it seemed to ease their inner wounds, if only just a little. Keanu leaned toward Sandra with deep, reflective eyes, and, in a soft yet resolute tone, said, "Every person deserves respect and dignity. The pains we experience in the past lay the foundation for our future, but they do not define us." His words echoed through the stillness of the night, and in Sandra's eyes, old resentments gave way to a new, glowing hope. After a long moment of silence, Sandra smiled gently. That moment became not only a symbol of personal resilience, but also a sign of the rebirth of societal values. Under the stars, accompanied by the gentle lapping of the waves, each ripple reminded them just how precious human dignity and solidarity truly are. Keanu's intervention that night was more than a fleeting solace. It was the beginning of a lasting transformation. The message that deep wounds in human relationships can be healed with support and understanding, and that justice and respect should always come first, was brought to life on that open deck. Thus, the tranquil atmosphere of the night became a symbol of new beginnings, inner strength, and the determination to stand tall in the face of life's challenges for both Sandra and Keanu.